Hi everyone, it's Mandy Alexander from MT Nest Designs with you today, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a distressed floral quote card. Bit of a mouthful, but you'll see where we're going in a minute. Okay, so some of the products I'm going to be using are Truly Happy stamp set, Fantasy Flowers 1 stamp set, and the Hexangles stencil. I'm also going to be using some Distress Oxides in Seedless Preserves and Shaded Lilac, as well as some Distress Inks. I have Dusty Concord, Seedless Preserves, get that into focus. No, it doesn't want, there we go, Seedless Preserves and Milled Lavender. I'll also be using VersaFine in Onyx Black, a 6x6 card, and a mat that I've already cut down to size in black cardstock, and some white cardstock, and that's where we're going to get started. So I'm just going to move these bits to the side, out of the way, until I need them. So first thing I'm going to do is cut my cardstock to size. So I'm just going to grab the card blank and the mat that I've already prepared, because I want to measure the heights that I need for my card. Okay, so I'm just doing this by eye. Line that up nicely. And then put a little snip where I want to cut with the guillotine. So just move that out of the way. So I know that this is the height that I need. And what I need to do is cut this down to 5.1 inches, because later on I'm going to need that precise measurement. Okay. So to begin with, I'm going to start distressing the cardstock that I've just chopped down to size. I'm going to start with the Milled Lavender. Let's get that on. And just around the edges and drawing it into the middle as I go. Sometimes I wish I could put more ink down in one go, because building up can take a little while when you're working with smaller pads, but the smaller pads are so convenient. I've got the tins to keep them in, so they don't take up much space, but they do make this part a little long. Have you tried the Distress Inks yourself yet? Are you a fan? Do you like the inks over the oxide inks, or do you prefer the oxides? I think they both have a place. I think they're both extremely useful. I have to try and remind myself to step outside my comfort zone when it comes to colours that I use, because I do tend to just go for the same colours all the time, but this combination works really, really well together. Oh, getting there. So now I've got all the edges done, I want to start bringing the colour into the middle. So I'm just going to draw all this in, start circling so that I get a nice finish. Oh, if my screen went very dark then, the sun literally just must have got stuck behind a cloud. Just going to go across, try and get some more colour in the middle there. I don't want to put too much directly in the middle because initially it'll be too dark, and this is the lightest of the colours that I'm using, so I'm trying to build it up gradually. Excuse my very well used piece of kitchen paper. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with the milled lavender, and I'm going to bring in the seedless preserves. This one doesn't take as long because it's a darker colour and it builds up slightly faster. This is such a beautiful colour combination. I'm almost halfway on this one already. My only downside when it comes to the distress inks versus the oxides is the oxides blend better. Also, I find anyway. So just building up this colour here. And then the final shade is the Dusty Concord. And this one we keep to the very edge. So the first one we took all around, including into the middle. The second one we took up to the middle, but not into it. And then the third one we are keeping just around the edge. Tiny bit more. Very nice. Hopefully you can see that okay. Okay, so I know this is a little dull. I apologise about that. Oh, that's the wrong colour. I just wanted to add a little bit more of the milled lavender to the middle now that all the colours are down. Not too much, just enough to so it's not white anymore. That'll do there. Okay, move those to the side. So that's all ready for me to go, and if memory serves correct, I need it to be larger on the portrait than it is on the landscape, so that when I come to put the card together I have the right side. So let me just make sure that's correct, because this step's important for the stamping that I'm about to do. Yep, that is correct. So I'm going to put it right back down how I had it and bring in the stamps. So the first set I'm using is the Fantasy Flowers. But I'm just thinking that before I do that, I'm going to use my stencil. So I want this part to be the bottom, so I'm going to turn it completely round so that I've got the top facing me now, and I'm going to use my shaded lilac in my oxide inks, and I'm just going to lay a bit of that colour down. Grab my stencil, and I only want to stencil what is now the top. Oh, let me pull that back in for you there. So I'm going to be careful when I come to the edge of the stencil because I don't want to go over it. Just holding it firmly in place, trying very hard not to go over the edge so I don't get a harsh line of edge. And that's that. Okay, so I'm now going to turn it round again so that that is now the top, and I'm going to work on the bottom with the stamps. So let me just take this stamp off of here for now. And grab the largest of the stamps. Well, as you can see, I already had a practice with this. Let me just move those out of the way. Get my stamping sheet because I'm going to be going over the edge, and my stamping mat so that I get a nice clean impression. Get some of that black onyx onto this stamp here. And just start stamping. I'm going to start with it slightly off the edge, and then I'm going to give a second impression so that it's like it's in the distance. Do the same over this side. And a second impression. I'll do that one more time in the middle, or just off from the middle slightly, and we'll turn it this way a little bit so it's not exactly the same as the first one. And again, a second impression. I'm going to swap stamps. And use this one. Make sure I've got a nice coverage on the stamp itself, and then I'm just going to go in and stamp. Again, taking a second impression. And then I'm going to swap stamps again, bringing in another smaller one. So I'm going to go for this one next. Give it a good inking. Take that little bit of ink off the side there. And once again, as with all of them, giving the second impression. Just building this up layer by layer. Then I'm going to go for the smallest one. Do the same thing again. Oh, just put my finger in the ink. And just add this one here. I haven't done a second impression on that one, but I will do with this one. If I'm honest, I just kind of forgot. So we're getting there. Just stab that one off a bit. So the one that I haven't used off of this stamp sheet, I'm going to use now. But I'm not going to use the Onyx Black. I'm going to use the Seedless Preserves in the oxides. Do it this way around, it's easier to see what I'm doing. The oxide inks give a really, really lovely impression. Just dot this one all over. I think maybe one off the edge here. And maybe a little one down over here going off the edge as well, just to fill that gap. And that's that. So I've built that scene up. Let me just stamp this off. I didn't do second impressions with the Distress Inked stamp, as I wanted that to be all full colour. Let me just tidy this up. Move this to one side and grab one of the offcuts that I was just using. Actually, I'm going to want that back. That's silly. Grab this back and then take the sentiment stamp from the Truly Happy stamp set. Just pop this on here. Grabbing the Onyx Black again. Inking this up. Getting a nice clear impression. Give it a good press. So all I'm going to do is cut that down and then create a black mat to go behind it so that it matches the card that I'm making. I have already done that because I figured you didn't want to see me chopping everything down again. So as you can see, there's just a frame around that with the black. So, earlier on I mentioned that this part had to be a specific measurement, and this is why. Because I'm going to chop this down before I mount it onto the card itself, I needed to be able to split it down into an even amount of, for me it was an even amount of inches. So this card is going to be chopped down into one, on my guillotine, I have a grid square broken up into inches and centimeters. I'm using inches, and all I'm doing is, this is the inch mark, and I'm just going 1, 2, 3 squares across. I'm going to do that, and all of these should then be the same size. So 1, 3, move that to the side, and then do the same thing again. 1 and 3. Pull that out, and now all 3 pieces are the same size, which is great. So let me just grab the card blank back and get everything around the right way, and let me just pop a bit of glue on here. I really like where this card is going. I love the colours that I've used on it. I think this is a firm colour palette favourite of mine. Just make sure I'm putting this on the right way. So completely flip that. With the wet glue, you've got a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that you get it lined up where you want it. Just give that a press down so it all sticks. And then making sure you pop them on in the right order. So line them up before you stick them down, because you don't want to put them on in the wrong order. So I'm going to take the end one here and just stick that down. So just applying some glue. You could do this on 3D foam. I think that would look quite nice as well. So just taking my time to line it up, taking advantage of the wet glue having the wiggle room, getting it in exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to take the other end because it's easy to line up the edges of the cards. Okay, making sure I get it the right way. Again, lining up the edges, making sure that there's the same sort of gap all the way around as there was on the first one. Give that a press down and then take the middle piece. I put the middle piece on last because I can then make sure that it's even spacing between the two end pieces. Apologies if my camera keeps going dark and then light. The sun is hiding behind clouds and it keeps popping out and making it all very, very bright in here and then disappearing again and making it all very, very dark. So this is the card all stuck down now, so there's a nice even gap and black frame the whole way around it. So the only other thing to do is just to take the sentiment that I stamped out and stick that onto a bit of the black cardstock. Make sure that's on. Very nice. And I'm going to pop that just here, making sure that I sort of get it nice and central. I'm just deciding whether I'm going to put it on some 3D foam, but no, I think I'm going to pop this one just on flat. I think if I put the panels that I stuck down onto the 3D foam, then I probably would have pop this onto some as well, but as I haven't, I'm just going to stick this one on flat. So lining it up, making sure that I've got fairly even spacing on either side. Try and make sure it's as straight as you can get it and press it down. So that's basically the finished card. I'm looking at it thinking, do I want to add anything else to it? Maybe I could add a few self-adhesive gems or some white gel pen to just sort of catch a few highlights, but I think I'm actually going to leave this one just as it is. So there you go, that's the card finished. I hope you liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I will post a still picture of this on my social media. You can find me on Facebook. I have a craft page, look for Mandy Alexander. I also have my Empty Nest Designs page on there, and you can find Empty Nest Designs on Instagram as well. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.